Few games are as important as the original Halo. When it released in 2001, it didn't just signal the emergence of the first-person shooter on consoles, which would lead to their total dominance of the industry over the next 13 years or so. It signaled Microsoft's Xbox was not a flash-in-the-pan failure, but a legitimate place to play great games. Without Halo as a launch title, it's not a stretch to say Xbox wouldn't be around. It is also a game with its fair share of flaws, the kind that make an updated version more appealing outside of a graphical facelift. The newly christened Halo Studios succeeded on that front, but lost so much it's hard to call it an upgrade. Before discussing Campaign Evolved, I should outline my problems with the original. Halo has a novel approach to combat, with both the player and the enemy using shields as their main form of health. Shields recharge over time, incentivizing riskier plays to finish off groups of enemies, but this also goes for the ever-present elites. To combat this, alien weapons tend to reduce shields faster, while human ones deal more damage to flesh. This means players will use guns and combos to take out enemies, a system that feels responsive and satisfying. The problems with the original are that the bulk of your weapons just aren't very good. Some get renewed use against later enemies, but in my time with Halo Combat Evolved, I never thought twice about swapping my assault rifle for a plasma one, or my needler for a shotgun. This is in part why the pistol sidearm you're given every level has become legendary. It's not so much that it's overpowered, it's that its contemporaries are soft. I was fairly excited to boot up Campaign Evolved and see that it included weapons from later Halo titles like the battle rifle and the spiker. But much of that excitement was dashed once I realized they were relegated to a set of new prequel missions added to the game. Missions that also featured an early appearance from the Brutes, enemies who showed up and became the main enemy in later games. Some weapons do make it to the core campaign, the needle rifle and the SMG for starters, but I found myself sorely missing the battle rifle once I got to the main story. It's possible the rifle is in the campaign somewhere and I was too set in my ways to go looking, but weapon drops felt pretty similar to what I remember in the original. That roster has been adjusted to make the game a little more even. Namely, the assault rifle, borderline worthless against the bulk of the enemies in the original, has gotten a major upgrade to damage. Even with its reduced magazine size, I found myself using it much more often than I ever did in the original. The plasma pistol, maybe the second best weapon in its original iteration, has become a shadow of its former self with its tracking and projectile speed majorly nerfed. But the plasma rifle has seen a similar buff to the assault one. The result is weapons feel more like you think they should, with the pistols acting mostly as sidearms and backups. Despite this, I found myself using the Magnum liberally, partially out of habit, and partially because its pinpoint nature kept it viable. Admittedly, a lot of this could be placebo. Enemies in general have seen a big nerf from the original. While weapons are still brutal on Legendary, enemies as a whole feel less aggressive and less responsive to the player. This is when the AI is working. Periodically, I'd run into elites who seem to just stand in place or jitter back and forth. Occasionally, they'd try to hide behind cover and peek out to take shots, an addition that would be cool if it didn't result in them breaking their limbs backward. In one instance that sticks out as a defining moment of my time with the game, a white elite, gun in hand, simply walked towards me, ignoring the firefight around us. Perhaps he knew something I didn't. Perhaps he saw me for the coward I am, but I'm inclined to believe his AI was meant for a sword, and when given a gun, he chose suicide, and I was simply too baffled to give it to him. No one knows for sure what would have happened had my co-op partner not struck him down, but I like to think we could have ended the war right there. The co-op expansion is one of the bigger boons of the new edition, upping from 2 to 4 online. I suspect difficulty has not been tuned for additional players, however, as my friends seem to struggle in duos and meet minimal resistance after I joined. It's certainly possible this is because my own skill level is so high it offset the difficulty even for them, and there is mounting evidence my friends are just bad at video games, but I'm humble enough to entertain the notion this is mostly because they didn't account for extra players when designing the mode. The biggest addition is the remixed mode for campaign levels. Halo has always allowed modifiers through skulls, collectibles scattered across the single-player campaign, but the Remix mode offers some more substantial changes. Here, enemy spawns are altered and weapons are randomized to provide a more robust second playthrough, even without the various skull changes. Probably the most fun I've had with Campaign Evolved was replaying the first mission Remixed, where I was able to shred through the Covenant with shotguns and fuel rod cannons. Weapons usually tucked away until the late game with strict ammo limits. This, the industrial design, and the burnt orange gloves of my Master Chief's skin made the whole thing feel more Half-Life than Halo, but I'm far from complaining. Certain levels in Halo 1 have always been a slog due to enemy design, but in the few hours I've put into this remix mode, I discovered they work far better in short bursts mixed within the more tactical Covenant, potentially making for a more even experience. That might make Campaign Evolved a fun time and repeat, but its first playthrough feels like a downgrade. Rudimentary they may be, the graphics in Halo 1 conveyed a unique mood, like a dewy morning at the start of winter. The beach run felt chilly and hostile. The internals of the titular Halo felt grand and hollow. Campaign Evolved instead opts for the sun-flared look of Halo 3. Not a bad style to mimic, but one far removed from the wintry feel of the original, and one that served a much different purpose in that game. The style of these missions does begin to come into its own later on, and some I'd say are outright improved, but that first impression is hard to set aside. Much of this is a matter of taste, but I can't complete my review without discussing the cutscenes, maybe the biggest downgrade from the original. While its animations were rudimentary, the original did so much with camera angles and motion that it left a stronger impression. Campaign Evolved's renditions feel weightless and half-hearted. When Chief fires his gun, it looks like the muzzle flash has been added in post, poorly. Poor visuals aside, the performances also seem like a general downgrade. Cortana, the AI handler of Master Chief, is the most egregious. Sarcastic and aloof, there was a kind of clinical quality to her original performance.
I leave home for a few days and look what happens. This won't take long.
Where is he?
I'm detecting taps throughout the ship. Sentinels, most likely. As for the monitor, he's in engineering. He must be trying to take the core offline. Even if I could get the countdown restarted, I don't know what to do.
Broadly inspired by works like Ghost in the Shell and Appleseed, the dynamic between Chief and Cortana has taken on a new dimension as her clinical qualities have been replaced with what feels more like a smug, aren't I cute and clever one.
I leave home for a few days and look what happens. This won't take long.
Where is he?
I'm detecting taps throughout the ship. Sentinels, most likely. As for the monitor, he's in engineering. He must be trying to take the core offline. Even if I could get the countdown restarted, I don't know what to do.
Whitewashing what felt like a duo with years of individual experience into an over-the-hill soldier and his quirky new hire assistant. I'm not versed enough in the original to say for sure. I do wonder if some subtle rewrites may be responsible for the change, as the original story included in the prequel missions is especially poor. Though broadly silent in the original, the future Halo titles characterize the Covenant leadership as Shakespearean, hiding their intent under layers of grandiose poetics as a byproduct of centuries of indoctrination.
When you first saw Halo, were you blinded by its majesty?
Blinded?
Paralyzed? Dumbstruck?
No.
Yet the humans were able to evade your ships, land on the sacred ring, and desecrate it with their filthy footsteps.
This also offers a distinct juxtaposition with the more blunt and genuine human forces, augmentations aside.
The message just repeats. Regret, regret, regret.
Any idea what it means?
Dear humanity, we regret being alien masters. We regret coming to Earth. And we most definitely regret the core just blew up our raggedy-ass fleet! Hoorah!
The new antagonist of the prequel missions speaks in boring, simplistic language, gallivanting about his soldiers like a comic book villain introducing his subordinates to the heroes.
I call it many things, demon. Here you can observe the true beauty of the Covenant. Our collective strength, a reflection of each member's devotion, the tenacity of the Ungoi. the cleverness of the Kigyar, the Sangheili, long our partner since the writ of union, the burning edge of the Covenant's blade.
It's a far cry from Halo 2's antagonist who spoke in trochaic heptameter.
I am a monument to all your sins.
There are times when the heightened fidelity of the game is genuinely impressive. After booting up the Remix campaign and getting a Spiker as my starting weapon, I was surprised at how impressed I was with the weapon when given a second to look it over, where I could appreciate how close it looked to the Helltech scene in Doom Eternal. Cortana's model, missing chunks of it as a hologram, seems to give way to an internal world too big, as if she was a living looking glass. Guilty Spark, whose portrayal by Tim Dadabo is on point as ever, now has depth to the mono eye that makes up his face, with a transparent outer layer that becomes opaque when lit by an LED as he speaks. As always, what we see here is splashes of talent that are lost in a greater showcase that fails to be more than standard. Many of these problems, were they present in a third-party title, I'd be more forgiving of. But this isn't a plucky new studio swinging for the fences and buckling under the strain. This is Halo, and it's the bold declaration of the new Xbox that the future will be superb, that Xbox will be a place to play great games. Instead, these problems pile up and reveal a product that is just barely above broken, but is largely unremarkable. For anyone with Game Pass, it may be worth the data to download and play with friends, but to anyone else, including PlayStation faithfuls who have been denied one of gaming greats for far too long, it's hard to recommend when the original is packaged with its sequels for notably less. Before booting up Campaign Evolved for the second time, I decided to take a detour and play some of Marathon's PvE mode, Vault Breaker. Marathon, made by the original shepherds of Halo, Bungie, was a wake-up call. Though Marathon has been criticized for its systems and implementation, it's hard not to respect such a bold attempt to break into a new genre with such a distinct sense of style and with such perfect gunplay. Its player versus player content needs fine-tuning, but Marathon has bold and smart enemies with a sharp sense of reaction and difficulty and bar none the best feeling gunplay this year. We were great once. We could be better. Ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba.